Hi, today we will talk about best consoles. Top 10 best video game consoles that bombed. There have been hundreds of video game consoles that hit the market and fizzled out, and most of them died for a good reason. Bad games, horrible controls, intense competition, and bad marketing will often kill the sales of an otherwise crappy console. That said, there have been several consoles that failed even though they were pretty good. Consoles with great games, technical innovations, and more lost their share of the market due to the competition or through poor marketing. The consoles on this list should have done much better than they ultimately did. You may even have played one or two of these years ago. Which is your favorite failed console? Shout out in the comments, and don't forget to mention your favorite games. Number 1. Geo AES, 1990. The Neo Geo was one of the most popular arcade cabinets of the early 1990s, thanks to the ability to play more than one game on them. Cabinets featured 6 games, while others had 4, 2, or just 1. The system had 24-bit graphics and some of the best games of the era, including Fatal Fury, Metal Slug, Samurai Showdown, and The King of Fighters. A home console system called the AES, Advanced Entertainment System, was released nearly simultaneously with the MVS, Multi-Video System, coin-op cabs. It had a memory card you could save your progress on and then take to the arcades to continue playing, or vice versa, which was a pretty amazing innovation at the time. The problem with the home console was that it cost as much as the arcade cabinet's hardware. It used the same cartridges that went into the cabs, and the cost kept most consumers away. The console sold for $649.99, $1,357 in 2021, with the games going for as much as $299.99, $626 in 2021. This was an example of an absolutely amazing console that was simply priced out of reach of most consumers. The Neo Geo AES sold around 1 million units from 1990 until 1997 when it was discontinued. Number 2. Nokia N-Gage, 2003. The Nokia N-Gage is a bit of an outlier on this list because it wasn't created by a traditional video game company. The system was developed by Nokia, and that's largely due to the simple fact that it's technically a phone with limited video game capabilities. This was back in 2003 when playing a video game on the phone was severely limited. Remember Snake? The N-Gage came in an odd shape, many thought it looked like a taco, and it offered up the ability to play a multitude of handheld console games on its 2.1 screen. This was innovative because it meant you could carry around a phone/video game system in a convenient all-in-one device. The N-Gage featured a total of 58 games throughout its worldwide release. Players could play Call of Duty, Pathway to Glory, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, and many more familiar titles on the device. For the time, it was an impressive console, though it had some technical problems. You had to take it apart to change games. Number 3. Atari Lynx, 1989. When Atari was still producing home video game consoles, the company jumped into the 4th-generation handheld market with an innovative device called the Atari Lynx. The system was the first to feature a color LCD display. It was a hybrid 8/16-bit system, making it superior to the competition when it was released. The Lynx also featured an ambidextrous layout, so a left-handed player could flip it and use the D-pad with their dominant hand and vice versa. It came out only 2 months after the Nintendo Game Boy and nearly a year before the Game Gear and Turbo Express. Still, it failed to capture much of the market's attention. This was primarily due to Nintendo's absolute dominance of the marketplace, thanks to the Game Boy. Despite this, the Lynx was an innovative console. It featured several popular games, including S.T.U.N Runner, Road Blasters, Chips Challenge, Rampage, and Rampart, among many others. Number 4. Nintendo Wii U, 2012. Nintendo has a history of introducing revolutionary game consoles. The Nintendo Entertainment System essentially saved video games following the collapse of the early 1980s, and the Game Boy revolutionized handheld gaming. The Wii upended things once more in 2006, and its successor, the Wii U, well, it became the worst-selling Nintendo console of all time. The Wii U was designed as the successor to the Wii. It integrated many of the same functions with one big addition. The inclusion of a Wii U gamepad, which included a touch screen and all the control buttons found on the other controllers, was meant to, once more, revolutionize gaming. In a way, it did this, but only by inspiring its successor, the Nintendo Switch. The Wii U failed to recapture the excitement of the video game community the Wii enjoyed, and its sales suffered considerably. A weak lineup of launch titles, lack of market interest, limited third-party support, scant internal memory, and technical limitations compared to its competition hurt sales. Number 5. Sega Game Gear, 1990. The success of the Nintendo Game Boy cannot be overstated, as it is one of the best-selling handheld consoles ever made. The Game Boy proved the viability of handheld systems with cartridge support. Hence, every other video game company tried to get a piece of that market. Sega entered the handheld gaming wars with the Sega Game Gear, a system with an 8-bit fully backlit color screen. The Game Gear was technologically superior to the Game Boy, which featured a monochromatic dot matrix screen without a backlight. The Game Gear had everything over its Nintendo competition. Still, at the end of the fourth generation, the Game Gear sales came to around 10.62 million units. Nintendo's Game Boy numbers hit 118 million, including the Game Boy Color, so why did the Game Gear fail? 4 words: game library and battery life. Number 6. NEC TurboGrafx 16, 1987. The fourth generation of home consoles saw the release of numerous 16-bit systems, including the Super NES, Sega Mega Drive/Genesis, and the NEC TurboGrafx 16 PC engine outside North America. The latter is one that few in the States knew existed, thanks to the market dominance of Nintendo and Sega. The system's games were coded onto small HU cards, which were a little thicker than a credit card. The TurboGrafx 16 featured the release of several impressive games, including Cat Ash, Bonk's Adventure, Legendary Axe, Devil's Crush, and many more. The TG16 failed to gain a hold in the North American market, primarily due to a terrible marketing strategy. If you're only hearing about it while reading this, it's mainly because the system wasn't marketed much at all. Number 7. Neo Geo Pocket Color, 1999. SNK developed and released the Neo Geo Pocket Color in 1998 in Japan. The system was superior to many of the consoles introduced in the 6th generation. The Neo Geo Pocket Color's 16-bit graphics, highly accurate controls, and 40-hour battery life made it innovative and accessible, and its price tag of $69.95, $115 in 2021, was difficult to beat. The system launched with 14 relatively solid titles, and it initially did well in the US and Japan. Unfortunately, it saw limited retail support in the States, and there were issues with third-party software development. Additionally, the forthcoming Game Boy Advance kept people from purchasing the system. Despite these issues, the system saw the release of some excellent titles, including SNK vs. Capcom, The Match of the Millennium, Puzzle Bobble Mini, and King of Fighters 2. Its controls were praised for their accuracy, and fighting games were especially beloved on the console. Number 8. Sega Master System, 1986. Back in the early 1980s, the video game industry suffered a crash, and there were plenty of people who thought it wouldn't recover. Video games were called a passing fad and little more, but that all changed with the introduction of the Nintendo Entertainment System. The NES revolutionized and saved the industry, but it wasn't the only console available at the time. The main competition for the NES market share was the Sega Master System. The 8-bit console was developed and released in 1985 in Japan. It hit the American market the following year, and was followed by a release in Europe and Brazil. The Master System was technologically superior to the NES in numerous ways. Number 9. PlayStation Vita, 2012. Sony's introduction to the video game console marketplace with the PlayStation was a massive success, and the company's products continue to dominate. Sony attempted to recreate that success on the handheld market in 2005 with the PlayStation Portable, which was incredibly successful with more than 80 million units sold. The second attempt at dominating the handheld marketplace came in 2012 with the PlayStation Vita, which came with numerous upgrades and updates to its successor. The PS Vita featured a 5 OLED multi-touch capacitive touchscreen, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, and 3G cellular communication. It could play incredibly advanced titles and had PS4 remote play capabilities. On paper, the PS Vita is a perfect handheld console, but in reality, it suffered from the evolution in mobile gaming via advancements in smartphone technology. The Vita entered the market too late, and people were less inclined to carry around the console in addition to their readily available phones. Number 10. Sega Dreamcast, 1998. The Dreamcast was the first video game console released in the sixth generation, predating the PlayStation 2, GameCube, and Xbox. The console featured off-the-shelf parts, which helped reduce its production cost while maintaining a high degree of quality. It was called ahead of its time when it was released. Despite these factors, the Dreamcast was a failure for Sega, which was once Nintendo's main competitor. The Dreamcast ended up being the last hardware console Sega developed, leaving the company to refocus its efforts on software development and the licensing of its franchises to other consoles. That's how Sonic ended up on every system that wasn't developed by Sega, and it's largely due to the failure of the Dreamcast. The system is still beloved by many, and it's well known for games like Phantasy Star Online, Crazy Taxi, and Soul Calibur. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe.